Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 20 of History's Greatest Idiots, the show where we go back through all of human history and bring you examples of absolute, unbelievable, stupid moments from all sorts of terrible, stupid people, so you can learn lessons from their mistakes and hopefully never repeat those mistakes ever again. But who are we kidding? We're humans. We like making mistakes, and sometimes they impact so many more people than we intended to, and that's certainly the case in the person we're covering today. So I'll get onto that in a second. But before we get to that, joining me as ever is my amazing co-host and dear friend, Derek. Derek, how are you, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. We had a couple of technical issues just before we started, the dreaded technical issues, but and I'm getting a low connection warning on my thing now. But we're fine. We seem to be okay. No one's crashed so far, so I'm doing good. I'm full of beef curry, as I mentioned earlier, and it was delicious. It was so good. I guess we should probably address the very briefly, because it's such a complicated thing. The Charlie Kirk situation, because it is a kind of a moment in history. It's kind of fucked up, and murder is bad. Let's just put that out there. Murder is bad on every level.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and that's all I'm saying on that, because this is a very charged situation. But murder and violence from any side is bad, and anyone is bad. And I also want to say that I know a lot of people out there will probably feel like there's a lot going on right now, and it's quite scary. I just want to remind you that bad times don't last, and eventually things get back to normal. My grandmother, who passed away recently, was born into the Depression era, and then that transitioned straight into World War II. So she lived through that even as a child. So I promise you, bad times don't last. So.
Man, I was going to make a terrible joke, and I'm just not going to.
Yeah, let's avoid inflammatory jokes right now. Although I will say that some of the rhetoric I'm seeing coming out of America right now is just... I want to put America in timeout and remind you that you are supposed to be the world superpower. Maybe get your shit together and stop acting like...
That's fair.
Festering teenagers.
That's fair.
Yes, you have a lot of influence over the world. Wield it responsibly, and if you get annoyed with me saying you have a lot of influence and you're in a timeout, and maybe your influence is too big, and you're going to say, well, who are you to say that? And I'll say, okay, that's fine. Challenge accepted. Who am I? What nationality am I? You'll probably make some sort of assertions. If you're just listening to this for the first time, you're like, how dare you, foreign person, question America's place on the stage. Ask yourself, who am I and where am I from? That's fine. You don't have to look too much into it. Don't assume that I'm English just based on the accent. Do a little bit of research, and then ask yourself, what's going on in my country that you know of? What's the major thing that's going on in my country right now? And if you can't answer that, then that's part of the problem. Because, you can't... So focused on crazy shit that's happening in America right now that everything else kind of falls by the wayside, and the rest of the world has got its own shit to deal with, so we're going to put our attention in that right now. Maybe America just kind of calm down a little bit and look somewhere else. Chill out. Have a holiday for a while.
Ooh, a holiday.
Holiday for America. There you go. National holiday. Everyone hangs out. Everyone gets a little brisket.
Hey, we just did one of those, though.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't long enough, and there were still guns involved. So let's all just chill out and have a nice little holiday, and everyone just shake hands with your neighbor and have a chat with them, and maybe they don't say something racist. Maybe you find a connection with them. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that's the fair deal. So while we're talking about today's episode, there's a bunch of stuff. I wanted to go in a little bit of a different direction. I wanted to go with a designer. So,
like graphic design, clothing design,
or both. Well, graphic design mainly, but also grand scale designs. Really influential. This person, you may or may not have heard of them. They're a very big name in the world of design and architecture, but maybe not so much in popular culture. They're one of those people who's had a huge influence, but maybe not so well known in the mainstream. But, you know, you're an artist. I have a design background. I used to design kitchens as a living. So I kind of wanted to cover someone a little bit unusual. And I wanted to go down the design route because this guy is hugely influential. But at the same time, he kind of got there through success that was given to him by other people. And we'll get onto that shortly. And while we're talking about success that was given to someone by other people, I want to make mention of our patrons, our wonderful patrons who have stuck by us through thick and thin. Those specifically are Jesse Christ, Kimberly, Andrew Zavara, Dilly Bob, Silent Crisis, Carrion, Suzanne, and Toasterzoid. Thank you all so much for supporting us through thick and thin. And if you would like to support us financially, starting at just $3 a month, you can go over to patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots and get access to behind the scenes footage from our lives, a bunch of trips that we do for just our own peace of mind, our own holidays. We also go to historic sites. We will be giving you scripts, and I'm going to be uploading one of those tomorrow in video, in picture form, because we're not allowed to upload files anymore. And we'll also we do monthly recordings, and you get annual gifts for staying with us, as well as a welcome gift for joining. So yeah, go to patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots, and you can find us on Instagram at History's Greatest Idiots. Also, if you want to support us by just watching and consuming our content, may we just say that the best platform to do that on is Spotify, because unlike YouTube, they pay us advertising revenue, and recently we've been getting enough advertising revenue to cover some of our costs. So we're starting to get places, and I'm really pleased that we're at that stage. So if you want to go and particularly watch the videos, you can put the screen away. Don't worry about that. Just tuck the screen away. You don't have to watch us. Just pretend that you're streaming the video. Go to Spotify and find History's Greatest Idiots, because that's where we get most of our advertising revenue from. So yeah, this week's guy is, depending on who you talk to, he's either a visionary genius or he's history's most overrated showman. Now, that's a bit of a stretch, because obviously we've got who was the circus dude?
The Barnum and Bailey guy?
Yeah.
P.T. Barnum?
P.T. Barnum. Yeah, that would be someone I would say is possibly the most overrated showman of all time, because for all of this guy's faults, he didn't have no slaves and he didn't murder animals. So,
fair. Yeah.
Makes him a little bit less problematic than P.T. Barnum, although this guy hasn't had a musical biopic made of his life yet, but I think it's on the way. So, let me tell you about Norman Bel Geddes. He is a man who promised us flying cars and streamlined life. Basically convinced America that the future would look like a 1950s toaster. So, yeah, he is partially responsible for a bunch of design influences that I will get into now. So Norman Bel Geddes was described by the New York Times in 2012 as a brilliant craftsman and draftsman. Could have just gone with one of the two. They're basically the same thing. A master of style. The 20th century's Leonardo da Vinci. That's quite a claim. Probably not.
It's big.
It's big. Like, everyone knows the name Leonardo da Vinci. Neither you nor I have heard of this dude before.
I can't say that I had.
Today. Exactly. So he can't be that big of an influence. Then again, we've heard of other design people. You think of multiple clothing, fashion designers, artists, but also like some people who've done like actual architectural. Frank Lloyd Wright comes to mind.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Yeah.
Gaudi or someone like that, who designed the cathedral in Barcelona. Like, these are names that people are more familiar with than Norman Bel Geddes. But this guy's influence is staggering compared to those two. So was he really a genius, or just a master salesman who could make anything look futuristic by adding fins and chrome? And he's responsible. When you look at like the shape of those cool diners or the shape of those cool 50s cars or anything like that, that's Norman Bel Geddes. That's the person who came up with that whole look, the chrome, the fins, the sleekness, the rounded edges. Norman Bel Geddes. That's who invented that. Yeah.
His fault.
It's his fault. And boy, so much more stuff is his fault as well. So let's explore the life of the man who designed everything from cocktail shakers to entire cities.
Cocktail shakers?
Cocktail shakers. Everyone's got to start somewhere. The guy who, Johnny Ive, the guy who designed the iPhone and the iPad and the iMac and all of those computers, he started out designing toothbrushes. You've got to start somewhere with your drafts. I know, it's so random. And pens and fucking phones, like 80s chunky phones. You've got to start somewhere. So he started with cocktail shakers. And think of a cocktail shaker now, right? You're thinking of something chrome, something looks a little bit like an urn, like a much shrunk down urn kind of looking thing. That's Norman Bel Geddes' design. The thing that popped into your head when I said cocktail shaker, that's who designed that.
Okay. So
that's kind of amazing, really. He is... You don't know the name, but you know the images that when you say Chrysler, some 1950s Chrysler, some people will get that in their head. That whole look, Norman Bel Geddes, effectively. So... let me explore this man's life. He designed everything, as we said, from cocktail shakers to entire cities. He convinced General Motors to build a pavilion showing us the world of 1960. Spoiler alert, we're still waiting for those fucking flying cars. And he tried to make a certain horrific medical practice seem stylish. So, yeah, we're going to get into that. This is Norman Bel Geddes. His full name, when he was born, Norman Mellington Geddes.
Norman Cougar Mellencamp.
Basically, yeah. We're not too far away from it. Norman Mellington Geddes was born on April the 27th, 1893, in Adrian, Michigan. So, your kind of neck of the woods sort of thing, really.
Well, he's up there in the Motor City area.
Yeah. And perfect clientele for his designs. He was raised in a place called New Philadelphia, Ohio. I'd never heard of that.
Me either.
No.
Okay.
He was really born Norman Mellington. Oh my God, Norman Mellington Geddes, not the swish Norman Bel Geddes that he'd become famous for later on. This isn't just me fucking with you by shoving a bunch of random letters together like my Welsh ancestors did all those years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, I promise. He's got a massive theatrical flair that actually runs right through his life. The whole showman thing, theatrics, he actually learned that in the theatre. And that's where he got his start, yeah. Fascinating history in the theatre. Norman's grandfather was quite the accomplished fellow. Successful professor, attorney, mayor of Adrian, Michigan, director of a bank and insurance company, and for 26 years, the president board of trustees of Adrian College. So Norman came from a family that knew how to reinvent itself professionally, which came in handy later because this guy's transition from one field to the other is quite successful. His father, Clifton Terry Geddes, was a stockbroker, and his mother, Flora Llewell, was a music teacher who shared her enthusiasm for art, music, and drama with her sons. Sounds kind of lovely, kind of American dreamy, right? You know?
His mom's a teacher and shares her love of art with her kids?
Yeah, but also, like, his grandfather was this, like, pillar of the community and helped all of these people, like, be an attorney and a mayor and a director of a bank and insurance company and stuff. And his dad's in stock brokerage, and they sound successful and it's kind of Norman Rockwell-ish a little bit, the painting idea that you get.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, when this is the 20s?
So this is like... So he was born in 1893. So this is like the very turn of the 20th century. Right at the start there, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So very early Americana. Yeah, you know, America, like New York starting to shoot up and new cities are being founded all over the country and it's a time of rapid expansion for America, and full of like enthusiasm for the future and exceptionalism. Here's where the story's family starts to turn dark, unfortunately, and would shape Norman's entire approach to life and success. The family struggled because his father, Clifton Terry Geddes, moved from one unpromising job to another, working mostly as a salesman. To make ends meet, the young Norman sold newspapers, and his mother ran a boarding house as well as her full-time job. Eventually, Norman's parents separated, which was incredibly rare at the turn of the 20th century. Was divorce even legal back then?
I'm not sure. Like, I mean, I think it's always been legal, but I think it was real difficult to exist and get, and there had to be cause.
Yeah, and also, like, being a single woman or a single mother back then, like, very frowned upon, I'd imagine. So
See, now did they? Yeah, I don't even know how it would work back then. Like, would the father run off with the kids, or did he run off with the mistress, or how did that work then?
There's nothing here about infidelity. It's just that he was so bad at all of these different jobs that his wife had pretty much just had enough and wanted to separate from him to get as far away from his like disastrous shit as possible, basically. I've mentioned that she was running a boarding house. After the breakup and years of personal failure, Clifton Geddes, unfortunately, committed suicide on June the 22nd, 1908, when Norman was just 15 years old.
Oof.
Yeah, that's an early impact on someone and also no treatment for like trauma or like grief or anything like that for children at this time. It's just like, your dad's gone, deal with it, sort of thing. So.
Right, and gosh, I mean, if they had split by that time, you don't know if he's even has any contact with his dad or influence at him, or if it's just like, hey,
yeah, but
dad
there's
left, went out for milk,
went out for a pack of cigarettes, and never came back. There's also the possibility of like, and this is something that I don't want to put this like heart-wrenching idea out there because it sounds like a fucking Disney film, but like separated from your father's like a traveling salesman, you don't see him for years at a time, but just because your parents are split up doesn't mean that you don't hold out hope that you might spend time with your dad, real dad, get together with him, spend time with him, and then just as that possibility is coming around in your mind, he takes his own life, and that chance is gone forever. Like, that's tragic.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, no, that would be heartbreaking.
Exactly. Clifton's suicide had a profound effect on Norman, perhaps encouraging his interest in the comforting optimism at the time. There was a craze sweeping America called Mind Cure, and it also initiated a lifelong obsession with realizing his dreams, something his father was unable to do. So, let me talk to you about Mind Cure for a second.
Mind Cure?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is Mind Cure, you might ask? Well, shut the fuck up and let me tell you. Mind Cure was a late 19th century American healing movement that extolled a metaphysical mind over matter approach to the treatment of all illnesses.
So, like the internet gurus of today.
Stop being a bitch. You're fine. You don't have cancer.
Toxic positivity.
Yes, it's exactly what it was. It was based on the teachings of an idiot called Phineas Quimby. An amazing, 19th century American name there, Phineas Quimby. 1802 to 1866. An American mesmerist and healer. So, snake oil salesman.
Okay. Mesmerist.
Yes.
You are mesmerized.
Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. You're not feeling any pain anymore. That lump on your chest, just ignore it. You're fine. And you're back in the room. Quimby had developed a belief system that included the tenet that illness originated in the mind as a consequence of erroneous beliefs, and that a mind open to God's wisdom would overcome any illness. Which is not how that works, but okay. This would kind of explain Norman's lifelong obsession with creating beautiful, optimistic visions of the future. He was essentially trying to mind cure the trauma and chaos of his childhood by designing worlds where everything was perfect, streamlined, chrome, it looked good, and everything was perfectly under control, and nobody was in pain. So
if it was pretty enough,
yes,
everything
no
would
one
be
gets ill.
okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna fill the world with cars and chrome. No one will get ill then. Another version of this is Christian Science, but a lot of that evidence boils down to kind of conjecture whether he was involved in these two things. I won't say that there's a direct influence, but there are striking similarities between his philosophy and the mind cure Christian Science stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also rumors there's a lot of conjecture about Norman Geddes and his influence, because if you go on some places, they'll say that he flirted with socialism and leftist political philosophy, while he also fucking loved some truly horrible, hard right-leaning stuff that we'll get into later. So this dude is all over the map, and no one's able to tie him down. But like, his mother got like a pamphlet from a woman who was like the leader of Mind Cure at the time, and she kind of talked to her kids about it. So that's kind of stronger than he was a fascist or he was a communist. Like, this one has some direct links anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So Norman Bel Geddes spent his entire career obsessively promoting optimistic visions of the future, designing worlds where everything was streamlined, efficient, and beautiful. It was as if he was trying to design away the messy, unpredictable reality that had destroyed his father. Norman found the theatre exciting and spent hours planning how he might stage the stories he read in various children's magazines. He was already a natural showman, even as a kid dealing with family tragedy. His family was financially struggling, and while he had a talent for drawing and theatre, he had no money and little patience for school. He finished just 1 year of high school and a few months at the Cleveland School of Art before dropping out entirely from formal education.
Okay.
So
And
everything... And then this is an example of someone who was like a born artist. He's a very talented draftsman. His designs are really, really interesting. And the formal education may have been one of those instances where the formal education might have slowed him down or stifled his creativity. So it probably worked out best for him in his life that he left school, but I wouldn't recommend it for 99.9% of the world to drop out of high school when you're, in 16 or 17 or whatever it is. So, basically our future Leonardo da Vinci was a high school dropout. But here's the thing. Unlike a lot of subjects we cover in the podcast, Norman actually had genuine talent. Like I said, he could draw, he understood theatre, but he also had an eye for design when it came to interpreting the material into dramatic sets and stuff like that. He also had something really crucial, an absolute gift for self-promotion that would make P.T. Barnum proud. There's the name. So, yes. In 1916, at the age of... I'm trying to do some quick head maths here. 23. He married his high school sweetheart Helen Bell Schneider, and they incorporated their names to become Bel Geddes. Let that sink in for a moment. Norman was so committed to creating a brand that he literally incorporated his wife's name into his own surname for theatrical effect at a time when women couldn't vote.
That is, yeah.
4 years before women got the vote, he's incorporating his wife's identity and name into his thing, and they are like a package together. So he's sharing power with his wife.
This is interesting. I like this. I want
yeah,
to hear more.
I like this element of him as well. He's quite, for all of his faults, he was a good family man.
Okay.
Shared a lot of equality with his wife, encouraged elements of her creativity as well, and his kids. His daughter goes on to be someone really interesting. So we'll cover that in a second as well. This wasn't just about love. This was about creating the kind of memorable, slightly exotic-sounding name that would look good on theatre programs and industrial design contracts. Norman Geddes sounds like a fucking accountant,
Yeah. It kind of sounds like an artist.
Slightly. Norman Bel Geddes, on the other hand, definitely sounds like slightly exotic.
Kind of sounds like an appliance.
It does. It does. Where's my Bel Geddes blender gone? He probably fucking designed those. His
Yeah.
career began with set design for Aileen Barnersdal, Los Angeles Little Theatre in the 1916-17 season. Then, in 1918, he became the scene designer for the Metropolitan Opera in New York. That's quite a step up there. Yeah. He's now designing operatic sets within a year or 2 years of starting his career.
In New York?
Yeah, going from a small theatre in LA to the Metropolitan Opera in New York in 2 years. It's either remarkable talent or like remarkable self-promotion. Probably a bit of both, to be honest. Also,
Still, good job.
Yeah. It's the early 20th century, so if you don't die from polio, you've got like a 1 in 500 chance of becoming the president. So
Yeah, and I mean, if you could make that travel, that distance.
yes.
Yeah.
I think like part of like getting, so you've traveled all the way from LA to come to this interview, man, you must be good. You've got the job. Like that's how interviews would go before the fucking internet. According to the University of Minnesota theater arts scholar Jorge Borges, Bel Geddes' lighting designs and techniques are amongst the most impressive contributions to stagecraft and American theatre in the entirety of the 20th century. This is how important this guy is. I want to point out, Norman Bel Geddes introduced focus spot lamps as the sole means of lighting a stage, placing them above the stage in the place of rows of light bulbs in the troughs in the bottom of the stage there. The footlights were replaced with lights recessed into auditorium walls and ceilings. This guy invented modern lighting schemes.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
the spotlight, the fill, all of that stuff, gels, all of that comes from his designs. So without Norman Bel Geddes, you don't get modern theatre lighting. Then you don't get modern cinema lighting. Then you don't get like German expressionism. You don't get like chiaroscuro noir lighting with the dark and light.
Stuck with the stupid light bulbs lining the edge of the stage.
That were
Elvis
fucking
goes up
hot
and-
as hell.
Yeah. Or no, it was Johnny Cash goes up and kicks. Right?
Yes,
And
that's right.
yeah.
And they fucking explode. And also, like they were all in a circuit, so you kick one, the whole fucking lot's buggered, basically. Yeah. So this guy invented like all of the stuff that comes from lighting, the 3-point lighting scheme, Hitchcock's lighting that was super important. You know, lighting the background, the foreground, making people look beautiful. All of this comes from this guy's use of lighting in the New York Metropolitan Opera. So that's probably his biggest contribution. Positive.
Interesting.
We'll get to the negative stuff in a second.
Of course.
Yes, he created focused, dramatic lighting that helped tell the story. This is the kind of innovation that shows he wasn't just a showman, he was genuinely advancing the art form. He designed and directed various theatrical works from Arabesque and The 5 O'Clock Girl on Broadway to an ice show, It Happened on Ice, produced by Sonia Henney. Because if you're going to revolutionize theatre, why not throw in some fucking figure skating and ankle breaking as well? You know, that's really that's where they're perfectly lit when their ankle snaps in two on the ice. His daughter Barbara first appeared on stage at the age of 10 in the production of Dead End, and later became one of the most respected actresses of her entire generation, starring in everything from Hitchcock's Vertigo to the TV series Dallas.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
She's got like a really impressive resume. And now here's something even more interesting about Norman as well. Both him and his daughter Barbara were inducted into the American Theatre Hall of Fame.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. His daughter is. You said.
Dallas and in Vertigo.
Okay.
That's quite a resume. Like, Vertigo is considered Hitchcock's masterpiece by a lot of people.
Sorry,
and Dallas
was popping into my head because she did a whole bunch of radio theater as well.
Yes, exactly. Amazing career. And I think it's one of the few instances in like a Hall of Fame in the arts where, you know, two members of the same family go in for different things. Usually it's like, oh, they're both actors or they're both this and stuff. He created modern lighting, and she was a very well respected actress in all forms of all different mediums. So that's kind of incredible, and God bless him for encouraging that, because she got to work with some of the greatest things. I mean, Dallas was massive in the 80s. Huge.
Does that count as a nepo baby? It doesn't count.
I mean,
he's like a stage designer guy, and
yeah, I guess it kind of counts in the same way that Timothy Chalamet is a nepo baby. He is. Yeah, his dad's like it was involved in, or like what's her name, Mamet, David Mamet's daughter, who was in Girls, and in she was also in Mad Men as well.
I never watched that show.
Mad Men's amazing.
I need to.
It's low stakes. There's drama, but it's no. You can watch it and just be like, oh, that's kind of sad. Oh, that's kind of cool. You're never like destroyed by it. You're always like, oh my god, that's kind of shocking. That's terrible. But like, you're never impacted by it like the same way you would be with like Breaking Bad or The Sopranos or something that's like really high stakes and intense. I've watched Mad Men maybe 8 times, and I said to my mother, you should watch this, and she was like, oh my god, this is really good. And then she got my 90-year-old grandmother to watch it, and she was like, oh yeah, the 60s were just like that. Yeah, so it's really interesting. It's like you can put on, it's low stakes, it's good acting, and there's just random stuff that you watch and you're like, oh, that's super sexist, or that's really racist, or that's really horrible. But actually you're realizing that that's the point, is telling you the story of how the society of the 60s changed. So I recommend Mad Men to anyone if you can watch it, especially if you can watch it for free on the streaming services. So whatever personal failings Norman Bel Geddes had, he clearly passed on both his talent and his work ethic to his daughter, and also encouraged her as well. By 1927, Norman was ready for a change. Theatre was great, but he had bigger dreams that involved reshaping not just stages, but the entire American way of life. Bel Geddes opened an industrial design studio in 1927 and designed a range of commercial products, from cocktail shakers to commemorative medallions to radio cabinets. Bunch of really interesting stuff for this time. And again, you picture radio cabinets, you might be picturing one of his designs. Not that many people will picture a radio cabinet now, but I certainly have an image in my head of the kind of designs. There's one of his. If you're watching on Spotify, you can see us looking at one of his commemorative cocktail shakers. Very interesting design.
Then I found this for his radio.
Yes. Oh my god, the fucking radio designs are so cute.
So neat.
Yeah, and look, like, I don't like, the proliferation of plastic in society, but fuck me, look at how beautiful that looks. The shine and everything.
It's pretty cool. It's so slick.
Cool. It's so, and the corners and the edges, oh my god. So he began work as an industrial designer in 1927 at the suggestion of Ray Graham of Graham Page Motors Company. Here's where Norman's genius for self-promotion really paid off. Graham Page wasn't just asking him to design one car. They wanted him to design the future of automotive transportation. He was their guy. He was going to design the entire fleet for years and years and years. Bel Geddes designed 5 brass concept models for him, each representing progressive future car designs from 1928 until 1932. None of them were built.
Of course not.
They weren't even concept cars. You see like these car shows, and there's always like, yeah, here we go. So Derek's found a really cool one, a really cool graphic here. This is one of the designs. Honestly,
spaceship.
It looks like a fucking 1950s B-movie sci-fi spaceship. That's what we're looking at. The fins, the chrome, the windows. It would be cool as shit to travel in.
Yeah.
But how functional is it? And actually, the interesting thing is that it's probably more aerodynamic than some of the designs at the time. And this is back when people aren't designing aerodynamic cars for efficiency. They're just like, get people in, get power in, more fuel, go.
Like, that would have been a cool bus, though, right?
It would have been a really cool... Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, I feel like when you have buses that look interesting, it kind of encourages people to use them more, a little bit. Because, like, maybe 1 in every 10 people that sees the cool bus is like, oh, I like the design. I want to go on that thing. Oh, and Derek's also found something that we'll come to later, his fucking spruce moose bullshit thing. So none were built. This is going to become a recurring theme with Norman Bel Geddes, that those he doesn't even make it to the concept car phase. You know, those things that you see at car show exhibitions where they're like, oh my God, it's so futuristic, so cool. When can I buy it? Oh no, it cost us $3 million to design that thing. We're never making it. It would cost, like, each model would be $700,000 to produce.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, they're just like showing off. Like, look how we can waste money. But he didn't even get to that stage. He would make the brass models, get paid for it, and then they'd never be built. He was absolutely brilliant at imagining the future and making it look amazing in models and drawings, but actually building these things, that was someone else's fucking job, and no one else was willing to do it. But here's the genius part. It didn't matter that the cars were never built. Bel Geddes declined an offer to sell the design to Italian dictator Benito Mussolini for $200,000.
What? Why?
Yeah. Mussolini was all about, like, new stuff and distractions, and he wanted, like, this design. This is going to show how Italy's leading the way, how fascist Italy is the way of the future. And to put that into perspective, $200,000 back in, like, 1932, that's $4.8 million in 2025 money. But also 200 grand, $4.8 million in 2025, it's a lot of money. It doesn't sound like a lot of money. Back then, it's a shitload of money. That's like buying a town money,
right?
Sort of thing, you know, like a fully functioning town.
But if he sold him the plans for that much money, he could have, like, bankrupted his ass because he'd never been able to build them.
No, he wouldn't. And actually, he should have done that. But I think on principle, he's like, I'm not dealing with you. I know where this is going. And you're probably going to fucking turn into a rocket or some horrible shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Norman was building something more valuable than quick cash. He was building a reputation as the man who could see the future. And he didn't want that future in anyone's hands other than, like, an American company's. He was very patriotic. And which is kind of common at the time. America is this huge, growing, interesting, innovative country, and he's like, why should anybody else have this? We should have this. So I like that about him to a certain extent. His book was released around this time, called Horizons. It had a significant impact by popularizing streamlining. When only a few engineers were considering its functional use, he made possible the design style of the 30s. So Horizons was Norman's masterpiece of self-promotion disguised as a design philosophy book. The book enhanced his reputation as a flamboyant P.T. Barnum of industrial design. Even his contemporaries saw through the showmanship. They're like, there's not a lot of meat on these bones. It's just about promoting yourself. Have you got one of his school chair designs there?
Okay, so what I found was this was one of his designs, and I remember this being, like, what I started out as my desk at school.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that could be mass-produced because it's like a fixed frame. Just need to bolt a few materials together. Yeah. Also, it reminds me of the Fallout games.
Yeah, but it feels futuristic, but it's old-timey, but it's like, yeah. But that's
it has a timeless quality to it, doesn't it? You know, like, if you went, like, okay, you go into, like, a kind of a weird looking school, and then you see, like, a room that has those in, it, like, kind of stands out a little bit as something a bit different. It would be horrible to sit in, but not designed with ergonomics in mind at all.
Yeah. Or different shaped people.
Yeah, or, like, people who are slightly bigger, slightly smaller. If you're bony, if you're chubby, like, those chairs are not forgiving. If you have hemorrhoids, forget about it. Like, you're going to be in pain all day long. If you sit on your balls, forget about it. You'll be singing high for a week. Also published in Horizons was Airline Number 4. And you had this up earlier on. A mammoth airship inspired by Germany's Dornier Du X flying boat. This fucking thing is so stupid. Please go to Spotify to have a look at the designs that he came up with. It's the most impractical thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Jesus. Look at the undercarriage. Look at the fucking struts of that thing. That is ridiculous.
My, oh my.
That's all the chrome in the world on that thing. Jesus Christ.
Look at the giant-ass sailboats that are around it.
I know.
How big is that?
Those are giant war schooners or something like that. It's just ridiculous. Geddes wanted to seat up to 600 people and provide... This gets wild. 600 people. You think, okay, I can see 600 people sitting there. that wasn't all. He wanted to provide areas for concerts. So you would have like a little concert hall inside this fucking plane. He wanted to have deck games. He wanted a gymnasium, a solarium. Even inside this thing, there are 2 airplane hangars inside this airplane.
Are we sure this isn't the Starship Enterprise? Is this not like a
That's
mothership?
what he's designed.
Is that what it is?
He's designed the Enterprise before, Gene Roddenberry came along like fucking 30 years later and stole his design. Silent Crisis, hi, welcome to the stream. It's good to see you. It's just ridiculous, completely impractical. And he put the cost of building the aircraft, just the one aircraft, at $9 million. Which would be something like 212 million in today's money, which again, we build like stealth bombers for like $1 billion a time. $212 million in today's money, yes, but in real money, we're talking like 100 billion probably, to build this fucking thing, because that's how much $9 million was back then.
I just want to see somebody land a plane on a plane.
I know. Like that's the next question. Where do you land this thing? And I know he says, "Oh, you can land it on water." No, this thing is fucking enormous. It's going to create tidal waves. That's how big this is.
You can only land it on the ocean or Great Lakes.
Yeah, exactly. It certainly can't land on anything close to solid. There's no airport in the world that could accommodate this thing.
Yeah, you've got to land at sea and then bring it in.
Yeah, move on up to land. Norman envisioned a flying cruise ship with dance floors, gymnasiums, and actual hangars. It was basically the Titanic of the skies, only it was even less practical and almost 100% guaranteed to kill everyone on board. But it looked absolutely amazing in the drawings, so who gives a fuck? Horizons brought Geddes to the attention of Walter P. Chrysler, whose company hired him to shrink and streamline the 1933 Plymouth so it would be easier and cheaper to transport. Geddes also contributed to the design of the Airflow, which was the first mass-produced streamlined car in American history. And it is kind of amazing looking, and it was a complete fucking disaster.
Really?
Yes.
I'm trying to find one.
They're not easy to find because they did not sell well, so there's not many of them left. So this is interesting. The Chrysler Airflow was actually built. The cars did not respond very well on the consumer market and were eventually pulled from production like within, I think, 2 years of being produced. No one bought them because they were too futuristic. They were too different to actually kind of stand out from what we wanted. I think you found one now, the Airflow.
There we go.
It's kind of pretty. You look at that, it's got an interesting look to it. I think it is a bit... The grill and the lights are a bit ugly, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's not vastly
there's been
different
uglier cars.
There has. It's not that different from everything else either, but it's definitely got that flow and the chrome look that he liked so much. So when Norman's designs were actually being produced, they weren't they were often commercial failures. The Airflow was ahead of its time, too weird looking for the 1930s car buyers who were used to kind of boxy traditional designs. This created a pattern. Norman's concepts were visionary, but often too radical for immediate practical application. However, here's one of his biggest contributions. You've also found a really cool chair, and I want to point out that this man designed beautiful looking chairs, and this design goes on to influence Danish design, which is now, huge in the world of furniture design. But man, I don't know how comfortable that would be to sit in.
Yeah, they don't seem real comfortable. I mean, if you were sitting kind of like crisscross applesauce, maybe.
Yeah, or like if it had arms, I feel like on it, maybe that would make it a bit more comfortable.
If you
possibly
smushed them together and laid across them, I don't know.
I feel this is a perfect... yeah, lay across them and stuff. I think this is a perfect lobby chair. Like, you're going to be sat in that for 5 minutes, like, while you wait for your appointment or your meeting or whatever it is. You can't sit in that for, like, half an hour. Your fucking arse and back will go numb, basically.
Yeah, especially that angle, yeah?
It's not comfortable at all, and your feet will start to tingle. Anyway, Texaco hired Geddes along with fellow industrial designer Walter Dorin Teague, to modernize the company's brand. They came up with the famous red T star and block letter logo that is still in use today. This is genuine, lasting success. Every time you see a Texaco station, you're looking at Norman Bel Geddes' work. The logo has outlasted him by decades and is still instantly recognizable worldwide. That red background, white star with the T in the middle of it. You can kind of picture it in your mind already if you actually think about the Texaco logo. So that's him. That's Norman Bel Geddes there, guy who invented theatrical lighting and the Texaco logo. So
I'm trying to get that right now, but everything has slowed down on my internet.
we still seem to have you here, so it's fine here. But the internet is being a bit silly in Arizona tonight. It's kind of frustrating. Anyway, we'll move on. In 1937, Norman designed a model city, the City of Tomorrow, with expressways featured in an advertisement for Shell Oil Company on assignment by J. Walter Thompson Agency. The concept was expanded to become the Futurama exhibit for General Motors at the 1939 World's Fair in New York City, probably the most popular exhibit there. This is the absolute height of his design success. And also you got an image there, I notice, of you've got him designing his city. Futurama was the moment of absolute triumph. You're going back to the boat there. Norman Geddes designed boats, and people looked at these things, and basically it looked ridiculous, but they have turned into modern cruise liners now, virtually from this design entirely. It's beautiful.
It's pretty neat looking. I mean, it kind of looks like a sub. It's so round.
It does. And you know what influenced this? Termite mounds.
Really?
He had a big thing for an architectural or a design style called biomimesis. And biomimesis is where you copy stuff that exists in nature, in the animal kingdom, and you incorporate it into your designs so that it can use natural, like, airflow for air conditioning, or like windows for light balance and stuff like that. So biomimesis was a big part of his design, and that's what influenced the cruise ship. And that cruise ship design went on to basically be the basis for every cruise liner you see now that's in existence.
Interesting.
That's really fascinating.
So he's more influential than I knew. Like, I'd never really even heard his name before.
I didn't either. I didn't know. You just assumed that these things evolved, but actually this one person is having all of these influences on the world and the designs around him. But anyway, so back to the Futurama exhibit. Inside the Geddes designed pavilion, because it was a whole pavilion, this design thing, 27,500 visitors a day rode in two-person car capsules on a 16-minute tour of Geddes' streamlined vision for America circa 1960. You think about that number, 27,500 visitors a day for a 16-minute ride through his vision of the future. It's like Disneyland before Walt Disney became, obsessed with freezing his head in a jar so he could come back to life after billionaires had crushed every union on the planet.
Oops.
Chopping his head off with a saw. I'm coming for you, Ava Braun. But
I missed most of that joke, but
you got it from the tail end of it there.
Yeah.
But so if you think about Disneyland rides like Epcot and stuff like that, the world of tomorrow, a lot of that comes from this exhibition where people just sit in a car and get shown the future. So that's effectively what we're doing.
And get shown the future.
Yeah, I just don't want to see our future. I want to see what Disney thinks our future is going to be like. So the spectators sat in 322 carry-go-round seats. Instead of merry-go-round, it's a carry-go-round that tilted forwards slightly to allow them to view the panoramic construction, which measured 3,738 square feet of the city of tomorrow called Highways and Horizons. That's what he called it. So that's a hint at what you're looking at here. Spread out beneath the dangling feet of the fair visitors was a vast miniature landscape that was explained by a male voice droning in the ears of each and every single visitor. A male voice droning in the ears in 1939. We'd have made a fortune back then. Sorry, what were you going to say? Oh, he's still there, yeah? He's still with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry. Internet issues. So it showed a panorama of superhighways and teardrop-shaped cars, as we've seen that he's already designed, of the distant future year of 1960. Nary a hippie or beatnik in sight, just cars and highways. Using these materials, he published a book called Magic Motorways in 1940. There's the exhibition if you're looking on Spotify, the people slowly being dragged around this massive exhibition, and it looks incredible. I would love to have seen that shit.
Yeah, I'm going to find some more here too.
I'm a sucker for like experiential stuff and rides like that. It just like fires my imagination up and stuff. I love that. So he published a book called Magic Highways in 1940, which became an inspiration for post-war freeway and interstate highway systems. And again, back on Spotify, you can see his exhibition. It is just a giant fucking highway with a few high-rises around it. Like, Jesus Christ.
So, okay, I can see where they got the inspiration. My question is, how do you get off? Where do you go? You can get there, but then you can just tuck and roll, or
so you take your beautiful teardrop futuristic car, you slam hard right, and you just smash into the wall, and that's how you get off the fucking highways. So this is where Norman's influence gets genuinely impressive. The Interstate Highway System that transformed America, it was partially inspired by Norman's vision at Futurama and the book that he published in 1940 called Magic Motorways. President Franklin Roosevelt appointed Geddes to help plan an interstate highway system. Norman Geddes literally helped to design the infrastructure of modern America. That's not showmanship. That's actually a huge achievement and a big fuck you to Norman Geddes, because he kind of ruined vast swathes of America with that design and making everything car-centric. So we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The flying cars.
Flying cars, cool.
Why didn't he put the flying cars in his exhibit?
I feel like if he put flying cars in there and just been like, hey, we don't need quite all of these highways, maybe we just have smaller roads and places for the flying cars to land, maybe we'd have fucking flying cars now, you know?
Plus, he designed it with these giants in mind.
I know. Apparently. That's good of him, and those giants love them a flat cap. Like that's and some fucking tweed as well. There's also a darker side to Futurama that we need to address. In the city of 1960, the inhabitants would live in a sterile city in a glass tower that presided over gridded sections of lower buildings. Almost as interesting as what Bel Geddes included was what he excluded: public transportation and suburbs. So, you're in this mega city. Basically,
what did the people look like in this mega city? I wonder
if they were all white. One went from the country to the city in a car. One drove around the city in a car. Of course, the sponsor of the entire exhibition and plastered all over the outside of the pavilion was General Motors, whose desire it was to sell everyone an automobile, preferably a new one, every year. Norman's vision of the future was essentially a corporate advertisement disguised as civic planning. No public transportation, no walkable neighborhoods, just endless highways and mandatory car ownership. And there's a cool badge. I have seen the future. No, you've seen Dystopia, I'm afraid. It's a vision that came true in many American cities, and now we're all paying the price for this General Motors inspired exhibition. I think it's fair to say.
That was a pin from the General Motors Futurama exhibit.
I do like it. I do want it, but also General Motors, you've kind of screwed us all, really. We need to talk about something that makes Norman Bel Geddes a way more complicated figure than just a charming showman with big dreams and just happy to take money from car designers. Bel Geddes was highly inspired by organic forms like the bodies of birds and fish, like we talked about, which he saw as naturally streamlined, and thus the perfect model for replication in industrial design. It's called biomimesis, and it's amazing when it's done by someone who thinks everything they do is balanced and stuff, but he thinks everything he does is perfect and should be made right now. So that's the problem, really. Bel Geddes was thus very interested in the potential for, here we come, the streamlining of biological organisms, including human beings. Where do you think this is going?
I feel like this is eugenics stuff.
Correct! 10 points to Derek.
Damn
10 points for Gryffindor. You're right. Fascism is here. Yes, you heard that right. Norman Geddes didn't just want to streamline cars and toasters. He thought humans could be streamlined too through eugenics. According to Garth Huxtable, one of Geddes' former employees, Bel Geddes often brought up sex and reproduction in casual conversation. So he's Russell Brand, basically.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the casual conversation you're having.
Yeah. I feel like when you're working with a designer, if you're talking about like biological influences like birds and fish and stuff like that,
yeah,
you're probably going to get into like the reproductive cycle eventually. But I feel like that's like a gradual part of an hour-long conversation, as opposed to, look at those birds with those giant cocks. Aren't they amazing? Like, yeah.
Yeah, or if somebody was like, hey, I was thinking if we made this couch, and you were like, what if we made it look like a sperm?
Yeah. It's perfectly streamlined, and let's make it all chrome as well.
It's a little weird. Yeah.
It's a little weird. Bel Geddes' library was filled with many of the most popular books on eugenics at the time, like The Basics of Breeding by veterinarian and member of the American Eugenics Society, Leon F. Whitney. Imagine working for this guy. You're trying to design a radio cabinet and your boss keeps on steering the conversation towards breeding humans for better aesthetic qualities. You know what this radio needs? It's pure Aryan blood.
My goodness.
Historians have interpreted the Futurama building as potentially promoting subconscious themes of sex and reproduction, in which the feminine was the passive tool with which the masculine used to birth this new world. The building was described by Lewis Mumford as the great egg out of which civilization was born. That could be entirely subconscious, though, especially, this is a man designing this stuff. It's basically never challenged on any of his thoughts or ideas at this time because men weren't really. And he's got so much power and he's such a showman that actually he probably wouldn't have even concerned that, like, why does your building look like a giant cock? It's like no one would have ever said that to him. It just doesn't kind of come to his mind. So Geddes' Futurama display wasn't about cars and highways and future free of pain and suffering. It was about giant concrete dicks and vaginas, basically. The most popular exhibit at the 1939 World's Fair was essentially a eugenics propaganda display disguised as urban planning, according to his critics. This is where Norman Bel Geddes becomes genuinely problematic. The same aesthetic sensibility that made him want to streamline cars also made him want to improve human beings. Does this sound familiar to anyone out there? Powerful businessman wants to make humans better because they have the right ideas and they know what's best for people.
Yeah, it feels like a reoccurring theme.
Yeah.
There's somebody recently I feel like might be dumb like or have ideas like that.
Maybe several people recently. All of them billionaires. All of them nerds as well.
You know what's weird about eugenics is it feels a lot like, when people like domesticated animals and created different like breeds of dogs and stuff, except for we're humans, and that's not how shit works.
I know, and the weird thing is that if you trace eugenics back even further, you trace it right the way back. And it's something that Chris Rock said that really caught my eye a few years ago when he talked about, like, oh my God, you know, he was having a conversation with someone about the guys in the NFL and the guys in the NBA. And he's like, these guys are so big. How are they so big? And he's like, let me tell you about slavery and the selective breeding of slaves to make the most physically powerful slaves possible, and how those people have obviously, you know, they're freed from slavery, they've continued on, and then you have the kind of the amazing athletes that you see in these sports. A part of that is eugenics that has come from the slave trade, in that you take the two hardest working slaves and you try and get them to breed, and then that's basically what eugenics is, and that's partially where we get some of the amazing physical transformations that we have today, is the selective breeding thing. It's really disturbing, and it was Chris Rock that said it, and I'd never even thought about it before, but when you think about it, that is essentially a form of eugenics before it even really became a topic.
Right.
It's so weird. So, you know,
I mean, it's Gattaca's eugenics.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's all trying to design the perfect human, right?
Yep, and remove human suffering, all of that stuff. You know, you talk about, you can see elements of eugenics as the villain in a bunch of stuff, like The Matrix, you know, turning humans into batteries, you know, the perfect organism. It's in Aliens, quite a lot, the Aliens franchise, where they're like, oh, you know, we have to breed the perfect organism so humans can survive in space. That's eugenics, and that's linked to capitalism, and those are the two ongoing villains of the Alien series, is like eugenics and capitalism, if you watch the series. This is something I learned the other day. If you watch any horror film or any like monster movie, and you remove the like ghost or villain or monster from the movie, you understand what the movie's really about. And someone said that if you watch the original Godzilla back, one of the main characters is a woman, and she's surrounded by three men. She's surrounded by her father, the guy she's betrothed to be with, and the guy she really wants to be with, who's kind of a pussy. And whenever she's around one of these three men and they kind of fuck with her a little bit, Godzilla attacks the city. And they were like, so Godzilla is basically feminine rage. So whenever this woman is being oppressed by these men, Godzilla attacks the city and destroys part of it. And they're like, it's actually a thing on feminism. I was like, I'd never even thought of that before. That's kind of really interesting. But
I hadn't thought of that at all.
No,
I thought it was about radioactivity.
Yes, and about the atomic, well, and that's definitely it, because like they mentioned that, you know, dropping the bomb and weapons testing and stuff like that, but actually you remove all of that, you remove the monster, and actually, oh my god, it becomes about feminism. There's a film called The Ritual with a British actor. It's a British horror film called The Ritual with Rafe Spall, who's been in like a bunch of films. I think he's in the Bond films and a few. No, he's not. It's someone else. Anyway, Tim Spall's son, Rafe Spall. He's in it, and it's a really fucked up horror film where these guys go wandering in the woods. You remove the monster from this monster film, and the film becomes entirely about grief and coping with grief and trauma. Yeah, and it honestly, if you get a chance to watch The Ritual, it's a fucked up film, but man, it's a good horror film, and the monster in it, terrifying as shit. It's one of the weirdest looking fucking things I've ever seen. Anyway, back to Norman Bel Geddes and his version of horror. He's designing beautiful sterile cities. They weren't just for efficiency, they were about creating a world populated by the right kind of people. Norman Bel Geddes' Crystal Lassies and the Cavalcade of Centaurs, featuring scantily clad or near naked women in tanks of water, infracted in mirrors, or bare-breasted on horseback, were among the attractions to draw criticism at this exhibition. He had a bunch of semi-naked women around the place.
On horses?
On horses, in water.
Confused.
Very naked. I know, like, how is this? Why is this part of your city, Norman? Thanks to carefully arranged... This is where it gets really weird. Thanks to carefully arranged strips of one-way mirrors also known as speakeasy glass. Each would have the illusion of being the sole onlooker of these dancers, who would be unable to observe their observers once the lights came up.
It's a peep show?
It's a peep show. He's designed a peep show in his model city.
Wow.
It gets weirder. He dressed them in harem outfits, so a G-string, a gauzy chiffon skirt, and occasionally like a veil, and each girl danced for 3 minutes before being replaced by one of her 8 colleagues.
Okay.
The man who designed Cities of Tomorrow also designed sophisticated peep shows.
Yeah, and the strip club rotation. Was there also
Yes.
a gravelly voiced DJ that called them to the stage?
Plague in your ears the whole time, and he is Chandelier. Let's give a big hand to Texas there. Given the main accomplishment by Bel Geddes was to imagine the world of tomorrow for 1960, it shows a true failure of imagination to think that women wouldn't be eternally topless and in a state of perpetual gyration for the pleasure of peeping toms. Like, that's his vision of the future. Women are just there to, like, shake their moneymaker constantly.
Good thing he didn't have a daughter.
And this is the weird thing. Like, he's really quite nice to his wife and daughter, but other women, I think it might be the Madonna whore complex thing. Like these women are mine. They are saintly. They are to be protected and kept safe and empowered and stuff. Other women are whores. Is kind of what we're getting at with this, and they are to be looked at, and they're an aesthetic thing there for reproductive purposes as opposed to actual human beings. They're just male fantasy figures. So by the early 1940s, things are starting to change. Geddes was ubiquitous, and his ideas were becoming larger and even more elaborate, but ridiculous and less feasible than ever. This is the classic trajectory of so many visionaries. You know, initial success gives them a giant ego, and they start thinking of bigger and more impractical products, and eventually they collapse under their own impossibility, and they think about going to Mars. And sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
This area right here specifically is throwing some Brave New World, Aldous Huxley vibes, and that's like the same time frame, right?
It is exactly the same time frame, and I just wonder if, like, there's an influence here where, like, someone's seen this thing that Geddes has designed, and himself being the showman and this, like, big ego and designing this sterile world. I just wonder if Aldous Huxley has, like, seen this guy and his designs and been like, yeah, you're getting a book, you know?
I see the future you want.
Yeah, I have, and I'm going to make it horrifying. It's almost like us finding someone that we don't like and going, you're getting an episode, which I've done more than once. In 1946, he designed a new grille for the post-war Nash automobile. He was also commissioned to design a typewriter for IBM, but his office soon closed due to financial mismanagement. The man who designed efficient, streamlined everything basically couldn't manage his own business finances. One of his engineers, Elliot Noyes, completed the project for IBM, which became IBM's Model A electric typewriter. Introduced in 1948, it went on to become one of the best-selling typewriters of all time. So that's IBM's Model A electric typewriter. The innovations in typewriters were like, you could make so much fucking money because typewriters were everywhere. I think I remember using a typewriter as a kid. I think my dad still had one. We're talking early 80s.
Yeah, I used one, not like this. Ooh, wow.
No.
This thing is...
Is it different. A chunky ass piece of shit?
It's neat looking.
I kind of can't wait. This is one of the designs that I didn't look. Oh yeah, look at that. That's kind of cool. I like the
part
like,
cash
kind of
register, part typewriter.
Yeah, like kind of the slate gray and the bright red. I like that color combination. That's kind of interesting. Good for you, Elliot Noyes. Oh man, that's such an earlier 20th century name as well. So in 1946, his designs, Bel Geddes' designs were good, but other people had to finish them because he was basically losing his mind. He had genuine talent, but he couldn't run his company because financial mismanagement and stuff. In 1946, Bel Geddes suffered a heart attack, and it would destroy his relationship with his design team and staff shortly thereafter. The heart attack at the age of 53 was probably related to the stress of trying to manage his increasingly chaotic business affairs. From 1945 until 1958, Bel Geddes worked on many unfinished autobiographical books. Like many of his grand projects, the autobiography kept getting bigger and more elaborate until it was never actually finished. His autobiography, Miracle in the Evening, was published posthumously in 1960. Even his life story had to be completed by someone else after his death, and this is the problem, is that he just couldn't finish these projects. He kept tweaking and kept perfecting, and it's never enough.
I can relate. I have empathy here for
Yeah,
I understand, sir.
I think we all do. We all have that one project where we're like, we have to get it perfect. We have to tweak this.
Everything of all of it.
Yeah,
Everything I've ever done.
What's that saying? Perfection is the enemy of good, or something like that, or something. I can't remember.
I've done nothing good, and I have everything unfinished.
Starting stuff is fine, but actually, there's an interesting thing that actually starting it is half the battle, but also finishing it.
I thought knowing was half the battle.
Yeah, that's that's also it as well. Getting started is really difficult. Finishing can be even harder, especially when you've started it and you've got the creative juices flowing, you've got all the enthusiasm. Sometimes you've just got to get it out there and finish it and announce it and stuff. You've got a picture there of a guy shitting in a car, I think.
Yeah, that's what it is. No,
that's what it looks like on the small screen.
Norman Geddes reminded me of a show that I was watching on Apple TV called Hello Tomorrow.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Seemed like it might have been inspired by a lot of his stuff. Super futuristic, flying cars, but also old-timey, and they're selling trips to the moon, and this guy's a traveling salesman who doesn't know his dad, and stuff and things. And
it sounds a lot like him.
Yeah. So I thought I would share that with everybody. Again, it's Hello Tomorrow, and it's got that one really cool guy in it. I can't remember.
I do want to see that show. There's a bunch of Apple TV shows that I want to watch, but I can only afford so many streaming services at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, just one at a time, and then you keep getting new emails so you can get the free trial and
sign up and then forget to cancel. And
don't forget to cancel. That's the
I need to set more reminders.
Yeah.
So Geddes died on May 8th, 1958 in New York City. He was only 65 years old, and by most measures, his career had peaked nearly 2 decades earlier with the Futurama exhibition. Kind of like me in my 20s, really. But here's the fascinating thing about legacy. Some of Norman's most impractical ideas eventually came true, while his most realistic designs were completely forgotten, like the cocktail shakers. Mr. Bel Geddes' designs, particularly his vision and model of a sleek and energy-efficient non-drag passenger ship, became a reality in the second millennia when ship design basically became built around his original concepts. Progressions into more sleek shapes like Mr. Bel Geddes had envisioned came true. Those crazy streamlined ships that everyone sees were too weird. Modern cruise ships and naval vessels often use these designs that would completely, they were basically his entire designs. The Interstate Highway System he helped inspire transformed America, though whether it was positive is now beyond debate. There's now significant problems with every state they exist in terms of infrastructure costs, environmental damage, health issues, cities falling apart and being divided by the designs around cars. All of that is thanks to him and General Motors.
Yeah, it hasn't been super efficient as far as logistics and stuff could have been either. But
no,
we've got plans, damn it. I think somebody's got plans.
Yeah, someone will pay for it as well. Like it'll sort itself out. It's cars. Cars always sort themselves out. His influence.
Maybe we'll just build a big floaty plane thing.
That would work with a bunch of hangars for other smaller planes, and then maybe a way for cars to get on there, and maybe a highway inside that. Yes, That's, oh my god, keep him out of space. We'd all be dead. Um, his influence on automotive design was enormous. By the 1950s, every American car manufacturer was producing streamlined designs that owed basically everything to Norman's vision. The United States Postal Service issued a stamp honoring Bel Geddes as the pioneer of American industrial design. It's official government recognition that his contributions were lasting and significant. But then there's the other legacy, that eugenic shit. The male fantasy vision of the future that incorporated sponsored urban planning that helped create car-dependent cities. Despite its optimistic outlook, its overemphasis on order at a high financial cost worried Chase. Granted that we can build and pay for it, is it the kind of world we should really enjoy living in, or is it too clean, too fast, and too neatly planned? It, is a question no one actually asked. Apparently, they just sort of went ahead and did it anyway. Even in 1939, critics understood that Norman's vision of the future might be beautiful, but really cold. Bel Geddes and General Motors' vision of tomorrow was immediately recognized as oppressive, precisely because it was understood as a narrow and prescriptive blueprint of the future. E.B. White, one of the great American writers of the 20th century, visited Futurama and came away disturbed by its sterile perfection. He saw what Norman couldn't see, that a completely planned and completely streamlined world might be efficient, but it wouldn't be human.
Yeah.
Humans are messy. The world needs to be a bit messy.
And that's some of the stuff that they're like, people are complaining about today. The new world is sterile, empty, and without beauty, and it's just clean, sterile, concrete, gray buildings, and we don't have the architecture that we had, and it's the same thing, right? Just more aerodynamic.
Exactly. Chrome, but sterile,
Yeah, I mean, Chrome's pretty sterile. Here's his stamp.
It is, and I do love the radios and stuff. They are the thing is, Bel Geddes designed Americana. You think of, we talked about Norman Rockwell. You look at Hopper as well, with like Nighthawks and some of the paintings that he created. Those like kind of reek of American imagery for me. But Bel Geddes designed like the sleek chrome, shapely Art Nouveau kind of thing that influenced design, and it is Americana. The problem is that Americana for the first 20-30 years looked and sounded amazing, but the reality of living in it 100 years later is becoming increasingly difficult for people.
Yeah, because it's not fun.
Yeah,
and it's restrictive, and
sad.
Gosh. Some of the weird things that I think about with, so like even going to the Brave New World happened to be I think that was 39, which is right about the same time as the Futurama thing came out, where he's saying like, "Hey, this sucks," right at the same time as they're saying like, "This should be the future."
Yeah, it's like I wish one had been listened to over the other, but I think people realize, and also I think a lot of his designs were quite easy to implement. So like, we can just like plonk, plonk, plonk and put things down next to each other, and then it fits together, and there's your design. Okay, that's like we're fine with that. Let's just do that. It's an easy solution for people to create his designs. Also, I just want to point out, this is just something that randomly appeared in my mind. There's a thing, I want to say in Germany, I could be wrong, but there's a place in Germany where they've got gardens from all over the world. So they've got gardens from like South Africa, they've got Italian gardens, French gardens, British gardens, Thai gardens, Japanese gardens, Chinese gardens, all of these like indigenous plants, design features, like, like there's pergolas and like all of the different things, and there's like a bandstand in the British one and stuff in this theme park in Germany. The American garden is 2 palm trees in the middle of a car park. And the car park isn't even functional. So when German designers were asked to picture an American garden, that's what they thought: 2 palm trees in the middle of a parking lot.
That's interesting.
It's a really interesting interpretation. That's very unfair, I think, but I think they were making a statement by doing
Yeah.
that, and I don't think it's entirely fair. But the problem is that idea of American design is partially in response to what Norman Bel Geddes designed in the Americana, the Futurama exhibition. So
Yeah, well, and I think, gosh, it sucks because I feel like I like the functionality and the ease of a lot of that stuff. Like,
yeah,
maybe the car-centric thing wouldn't be bad if we had all like self-driving cars that drove us
yeah.
all around and they were electric and didn't. Well, I mean, gosh, because even now the electrics making those is terrible.
That's true. I feel like if we'd gotten on this earlier, because we had electric cars in the early 20th century, those things existed. So if we'd continued on that line and maybe looked into flying car technology, we might be in a better position now. But, you know, maybe we'll get there. There's more to this, though.
Okay.
So what do we make of Norman Bel Geddes? Visionary genius or history's most overrated showman? The answer is possibly both a little bit, like some of one, some of the other. He was genuinely talented. His theatre lighting innovations were revolutionary. His industrial designs influenced everything from cars to kitchen appliances to ships, military designs, entire cities, highways. His vision of the Interstate Highway System helped reshape America. These weren't marketing tricks. These were genuine contributions and had, lasting impact. But he's also the ultimate example of style over substance. For every practical success like the Texaco logo, there were dozens of beautiful, impossible designs that existed mainly to generate publicity and attract even more clients who he might not even end up designing anything that worked for them as well. Bel Geddes' office followed its standard practice and at the end of the project produced an official job summary. Norman usually used to reflect on the success and failures of the job, generate publicity and attract new clients. He didn't care if they were finished or not. According to Bel Geddes, his designs for Philco helped the company gain 50% of US radio sales, reach peak production of 4 million sets, and resulted in the building of a new factory by the end of 1932. Essentially, Bel Geddes was making a grand claim that design alone had transformed a company's fortunes. But when researchers actually looked into it, they found that Philco, the job summary, ignored the results of the survey and suggested the improved visual design had not substantially increased the company's sales. Norman had a habit of taking credit for success that was probably due to many factors beyond his design work. He was a master of what we might know as spin, basically, as self-promotion. And then there's the uncomfortable reality of his eugenics belief. Norman Geddes wasn't just a designer, he was a man who believed that the human beings in his automobiles could be improved through better breeding. His beautiful future cities weren't about architecture, they were about creating a world for the right kind of people. This makes him a perfect subject for our podcast because he embodied both the best and worst of American optimism. He believed that everything could be improved through design and technology. That's produced some genuinely amazing advances. The belief that human beings are just another design problem to be solved, that's produced some of the most ridiculous, disgusting horrors in recent human history. A visionary who was equally capable in the realms of fact and fiction, Bel Geddes played a significant role in the 1920s and 30s, playing not only shaping modern America, but also the nation's image of itself as an innovator and leader into the future. He gave America a vision of itself as a country that could design its way to perfection. The vision produced the interstate highway and industrial designs. It also produced urban sprawl, car-dependent cities, culture obsessed with surface appearances. He was brilliant, talented, influential, and deeply flawed. He created beautiful things and really ugly ideas. He promised us the future and delivered both wonders and disasters. In other words, he was quintessentially American. So that's Norman Bel Geddes. A legacy that I wasn't aware of until I started researching him, really. And a really interesting guy in a number of different ways. What do you make of it?
Definitely interesting. Gosh,
Hmm.
I hate the eugenics thing, and I
Me
mean,
too.
I love the interstates,
Yeah.
but I hate the interstates because I
Yeah.
feel like we should have done better and shouldn't have got tricked and marketed
Yeah.
a bad idea.
I think the
Uh,
interstates, as a theory of transporting goods and people as efficiently as possible from one state to another, it needed to happen in a way, but at the same time, it shouldn't have invaded urban spaces. I think
right?
it
Yeah,
should have been
it
kept
just could have
away.
been done better, but
Yeah.
we, you learn, you live and you learn and you grow, and that's how it goes. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just stagnate, and then you got to get kicked in the ass and figure it out.
Yeah. So if
Um,
you have to score Norman Bel Geddes, it's kind of a difficult one because again we have to go back to the usual thing. He didn't kill no one,
right,
directly anyway.
right, and those radios were really cool,
They were cool.
and he created the strip club rotation.
He
I
helped many a
think,
stripper get efficient money. So
and cruise ships, you know,
yes,
and
yeah,
those are cool. I think I've
very
never
cool.
been on one. I hear they're terrible for the environment.
They are. I've been on one. I've been on precisely one cruise ship. Interestingly, it was a cruise ship that was used in the Falklands War as a troop carrier.
Oh,
Yeah, randomly. So it was very old by the time I got it in the 90s. And I've got to say, for a teenager, it was boring as fuck.
yeah.
And I got seasick to hell in that thing. So, not
See,
for me, I
I'm
think.
so torn on it because I've heard how bad they are in general, as far as for the environment and some of the
Yeah.
staffing. But gosh, it sounds like a really fun time to just be out there and free food and shows
Yes.
and mingling with people and just
If you
yeah,
have a lot of money, a cruise holiday makes sense. The issue is you have to make sure you get the right package because cruise ships are like the literal definition of being nickel and dimed to death.
really.
Because, yeah, you're in an enclosed environment, they've got you, right? So you can't just like, oh, I'll go to a cheaper restaurant or we'll order in or something like that. They've always got your money. So if you get like a drinks package, you have to really read the fine print because sometimes the drinks package either excludes alcohol or only includes alcohol. So if you want a soft drink, that's extra. And if you
Uh,
want to go to the theatre, you have to book in advance and you have to pay a little extra for this show because this show is special. If you want to go to the cinema on the ship, you got to pay a little extra because that's a little extra there. And you can
hmm.
only, if you've got the food package, it might only be for one specific restaurant. It might only be certain times a day, so you have to pay for your breakfast. And if you want to eat somewhere else that night, you have to pay more on top of it. And then you're already paying for your food, so you might as well go back to the other place.
All right, I'm going to the woods.
So if you get like a truly all-inclusive package on a fun cruise ship that isn't packed, I also think it's probably not a place for people who prefer to be in a quieter environment and away from massive crowds because you're quite enclosed
I live
a lot of the
downtown.
time. You're okay. But like I couldn't cope with it. I don't cope well with crowds and lots of noise. I need a bit of peace and quiet in my life to relax. So yeah, cruise ships are fine if you have a lot of money. And I do know the interesting thing is there are a bunch of stories out there of retirees who book themselves on like 28-year-long round-the-world cruises because ultimately it is cheaper and more efficient financially for them to be on these continuous cruises than it is to live in a retirement community where they just basically all of their money is taken from them 1 month at a time. So
It seems like it would be fun, and then you would see the world. And I mean,
yeah,
gosh,
free
that's
healthcare.
kind of the point of being alive, is experiencing things.
Exactly. So cruise ships, positives and negatives. I think you have to try it to understand if it works for you. And if you want an idea of how bad things can go wrong, watch the documentary Poop Cruise
Oh
on
boy.
Netflix. 'Cause that's as
Oh,
bad as it gets. So other than the Costa Concordia, which we've covered, where a bunch of people died, that's about as bad as cruises get, really.
yeah. And if you like the random tangent we just went on there, goodness.
Yes.
What was I doing? Oh yeah. So Norman Bel Geddes
Yes.
is not so bad, not so terrible. Made cool cruise ship designs. That's how I
So,
got there.
there we are. Yeah.
Um, what do you I think a 79 maybe. Okay, that's a
Yeah.
B. Is that a C? Is it a
That's
B? I don't
a
know.
B or a C. I think because you can't. The stuff that we didn't really cover on is the negative impact of his designs being implemented in terms of road-centric cities, like because that kind of goes in hand with the leaded fuel thing,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
So when you tie those two things together, the fact that cars are everywhere in these major cities, people are piled on top of each other in these cities, and then you have leaded fuel, you have a bunch of deaths. And
Yeah.
obviously he wouldn't have known that because unlike Thomas Midgley Jr., who fucking knew that, he didn't know that leaded fuel would kill people. But I'm not 100% sure that he wanted the best for everyone, but I don't think he really thought it through with the highways in the cities. So
That tends to be the way it goes. People that want the best for everybody tend to don't think it through.
yeah, he had good intentions, but unfortunately his designs coupled with leaded fuel will have
Oof.
led to poisonings, lower of intelligence, and deaths across the board, and like actual mutations in human like DNA and shit like that. So that's not a good thing. And also like the eugenics thing, the sexism thing, the fucking peep show shit, like that he was really good to his own family, but other women in his vision were objects. That's kind of fucked, man. I know it's the 1930s, but Jesus.
It's an unself-aware set of ideals,
Yeah,
unevenly applied.
it absolutely is. And the problem is that for Bel Geddes, because he had such an influence on the world, he is going to have his flaws and the weirdness of his designs examined maybe more than other more famous people that haven't been as influential on stuff like that. Like I'm sure Frank Lloyd Wright, if we'd looked back at him, maybe he'd like, I don't know, maybe he kicked a bunch of puppies. You know, you never know because that's not something that's kind of out there. But because this guy helped shape America and therefore that American architectural influence kind of spread throughout the world. So he kind of influenced world design. And as a result, you know, there's going to be more of a spotlight on some of the crazy shit. And, you know, he's got the whole mind cure thing going and the sexism and the eugenics. And that isn't, those aren't ideologies you necessarily want spreading.
But at least he brought us Futurama.
At least he bought us Futurama. Thank you to him and Matt Groening for that show. But yeah, I think a 79 is fair. I feel like this is one of those instances where the negative impact is something that if he'd put a bit more thought into it and kind of thought through the sequence of events, if this is a guy that truly saw the future, then maybe he'd realised that the proliferation of the automobile and these cities would not necessarily have been a perfect thing, and maybe he would have tweaked his designs a little bit, then, you know, maybe we'd have more livable cities that aren't crumbling.
Maybe if we used his designs, we wouldn't use so much gas.
True. Yeah, maybe if it was more efficient. Maybe if we'd used electric cars, we wouldn't have been under the like issues that we're facing now with pollution. But anyway, so that's Norman Bel Geddes. That is a 79. That's one of the highest scores we've had in a while, but I think it's justified. Brilliant designs. I do want you to, if you are interested in designs, like I'm the kind of person that loves hanging out in art galleries and museums and loves designs and shit like that. And like when I had the chance to see the Magna Carta, I was like, the only thing that really impressed me was like, oh, it's so pretty. Look at how well it's designed, instead of like the impact it's had on like modern democracy. I'm like, wow, the person who wrote that has got really good penmanship, you know. Like, yeah, that's what I was impressed with. So like if you are into like design and design elements and design history, this guy's influence is massive. Go and check out Norman Bel Geddes' work. Maybe ignore some of the showmanship that he puts up with, because he's like, he bigs himself up quite a lot. So we've established that. Maybe ignore that part and just look at the cool designs. So that's Norman Bel Geddes. That's our show for this week. If you enjoyed what you heard and you want to support us a little bit, go over to patreon.com/history's greatest idiots, where we have behind the scenes footage from our lives, trips we take, holidays, also venturing to historical landmarks and stuff like that. We've also got welcome gifts. We've got exclusive monthly like 90-minute long recordings, which we'll be doing again very soon. You get welcome gifts, you get scripts, you get annual gifts, all of that for like $3 to $5 a month. And there's even a tier that you can sling us 15 grand if you're really that wealthy. It's
Yeah.
the Adam Newman tier. So if you are Adam Newman or some crazed lunatic out there with 15 grand you want to throw at us, please, you would genuinely make our lives amazing. We're also on Instagram at History's Greatest Idiots, where we've got a bunch of memes and short form videos from our episodes. So go over there and view those. And we are available on YouTube, but we encourage you to go over to Spotify to watch our videos because that's where we make our AdSense and where we cover our costs. So please go over there to that. And that's our show for this week. Derek, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everybody.
And we will see you all again very soon. Take care now. Bye.